Shalom and hello there. I'm Doreen Ellen Beldotan from Tzfat, and now that Lag BaOmer is well and duly over, we can talk about things that I didn't want to put out there in the general atmosphere before Lag BaOmer in order to prevent any unpleasant doings. You notice my babushkis? Did you check that out? Huh? Our daughter bought them for me. The entire purpose of human existence is to find a way of ideating that God can live in and with. To create an ideological basis for worlds that God can find a happy space in. We're not here to discover that which exists sui generis, because nothing does, or even a priori, because nothing does. We're here to come up with a blessed way of thinking, which then becomes the foundations of worlds that are in accordance with God's will. What we are experiencing now, and I frankly find it horrifying, is a mass extinction event of the ways of thinking, the ideation that can't be fixed and has to be done away with. There are some basic ways of thinking that are so inherently perverted and twisted that they really have no continuation. And those ways of thinking are being obliterated. We are seeing many natural disasters, extremely destructive natural disasters, and if people don't get the message, they're going to get worse, much worse. Fault lines, volcanoes, underwater volcanoes, massive storms, and we see that the sun is actively participating in that. The sun, as we know, has information highways to and fro with other stars. And so we understand from that the other stars with which the sun is interacting are on board with this too. A massive extinction event of ideas that are so essentially perverted that they can't be fixed. There are some ideas that are really bad ideas that are being quarantined from the healthier ideas. that those who entertain those ideas that are not great ideas, but not total disasters of ideas, those people are being quarantined from those who think in a pure way, so that they can't harm them, and so that the worlds that are being generated from those who are coming from a place of really good intentions in their heart and in their minds can grow. And we'll talk about how this is being expressed in what we're seeing now. We should speak a bit about Zoroastrianism. Zoroaster, Zarathustra, looked around him and he saw that the actions of the Assyrians were absolutely brutal, barbaric, horrific. And it shocked him to his core. And he struggled to find a way of understanding the world that would be an improvement over the religions of his time that had fallen into serving only the rich. And he came up with his threefold path, which is the core of the ethics of Zoroastrianism. They are good thoughts, good words, and good deeds that people can choose to adopt in order to hold back evil. Had he stopped at that point, would have been wonderful. But he didn't stop at that point. He then began to trip on all kinds of ideas. That there are dark elements, and that there's the cosmic war between good and bad, and heaven and hell, and that the world is an admixture of the input of this duality of good and bad, and it led to all kinds of beliefs that are not healthy beliefs, including demonology. Judaism, that is rabbinic Judaism, not the true Judaism. I'm talking about Judaism, Jewishism, Christianity, and Islam all adopted ideas from Zoroastrianism. In fact, in the pseudo-Kabbalah that most people who think they're Jews learn, there is a figure by the name of Ashmedai. And he is considered the worst of the evil demons, except for his wife. Poor old Lilith. Where does this name Ashmedai come from? One of the evil deities that serve the evil god of the Zoroastrian hallucination is something by the name of Ashma. The bad guys in Zoroastrianism are called devas or deos. So and one of them is Ashma. Ashma, devas, Ashma, deus, Ashma, Dai. All of these ideas, and I think that there are Christians that believe in all of this, and I don't know whether or not it filtered into Islam. Islam, I do know, is under the influence of Zoroastrianism as well, but I don't know whether or not they adopted this Ashmedai business. So we see that what people think is the Kabbalah, is the secret teachings of Judaism, is actually straight out of Zoroastrianism, with an admixture of Gnosticism. God help us. These ways of thinking is what has to become extinct. And so there is an extinction event happening in a very, very real way with those who believe in these kinds of things. We see that God is bringing many, many natural disasters on the Christian world. And especially since this new Pope came over, the volcanoes are roiling. I don't know whether or not he noticed, but since he became Pope, there's a lot of geological protest. I hope he can read the map. God does not like that Pope. These ideas, which come to no good essentially because they degenerate into hallucinations in a rabbinic Judaism, in Christianity, and in Islam, all have to be eradicated, and they are being eradicated. I should like to say at this point that the prophet Micha says something very similar to what Zoroaster says in his threefold path, right? To good thoughts, good words, and good deeds. Had he stopped at that point, all would have been well. What Micha says is, it has been told to you, O man, what is good and what God requires of you, only to do justly, to love mercy, and to walk humbly with your God. He does not then go on to start tripping about demons and which animals are good and which animals are bad, and start to perform all kinds of ceremonies and give the dead to the vultures, which is it's an interesting idea, but it's unnecessary. No, the dead bodies do not pollute the earth. He's able to stay with the good idea, with the good understanding, Prophet Micha, without going off on tangents, without starting to hallucinate, without building a whole ideological structure that ultimately cannot be maintained in reality. So what we're seeing is the extinction of the Zoroastrian way of thinking. And they had, there were influences from Hinduism and Zoroastrianism, and I'm sure that in turn they influenced Hinduism, Buddhism. All of that has to go. Now there are some ways of thinking that are not being done away with whole cloth. They can be fixed, but they need to be quarantined until they can get better, because they're very sick. They can get better, but they need to be in quarantine. One of them is Rabbinic Judaism. The state of Israel exists for the Erev Rav, for those who hold to Rabbinic Judaism. The state of Israel is not the same Israel intended for the people of Israel, and there are only 7,000 that remain in Israel, according to Kings 1, 19:18 and 20:15. And I suggest you look at that. That was not a census that was taken for the time. That is the final result that Hashem explains to Eliyahu Hanavi, to Elijah the prophet, that there will only be 7 remaining in Israel for all time. What's written by the prophets is not events that are going to happen sometime. These are eternal truths. If you read them correctly, they are not only present in the present, they're present in the continuing present, and in the what's thought of as the past, which is also part of the continuing present, which is God's presence. So there are only 7,000 in Israel. This is the compromise that Hashem makes with Moshe. Moshe will not allow the obliteration of the Jewish people and leaving only him. At the same time, Hashem sees that only 7,000 in Israel are capable of interpreting Torah correctly and creating the reality that is Israel. That is not the same thing as the state of Israel. The state of Israel is the state of the Erev Rav, those who think they are Jewish. They are sincerely convinced that they are, and they are not. And the state is what they want. It's business, it's action, it's trauma, it's drama, it's the perpetual wanting Mashiach. They don't want Mashiach. They want to want Mashiach perpetually. They're getting all these things that they love. So this is what has been prepared for the Erev Rav. The fact that they are not completely obliterated is in accordance with what Hashem said to Moshe, but some of them are born of Israel, some of them never were Israel, and they just kind of accrued to. So the place that they've been given is the state of Israel, which is not the Israel of Israel. So long as one exists in the world, it means that they can be fixed. The Baal Shem Tov was absolutely right about that. So as bad as things are between the Muslims that are tripping on Zoroastrianism and the rabbinic Jews that are tripping on Zoroastrianism, there is a core there that can be fixed. At the same time, they need to be quarantined because they're terribly sick. So that in a very short nutshell that I can put into this frame of a video is what is happening in the world. Hashem is using the forces of nature to cause an extinction event of that which cannot be fixed. And if you've opened up the internet, everybody, it's just a deluge of delusion. It's absolute insanity. There are people walking around with ideas that are just, wow. Hashem is doing away with that. Those who are not immediately affected by it and see it are being given a warning. And there is an encapsulation of those who are entertaining pathological ideas, a quarantine until they heal. That's the best I can explain it for now. Thank you for listening. Aren't they cute? Adorable.